Here's a small selection of pocket knives that go from one traditional size knife, an Alox uh, Victorinox electrician, to a Spyderco, a Dragonfly, a ZT 0900, a ZT 0609, a Microtech LUDT, a Hendra XM18 with a buoy blade, and and a new steel wheel model, whose name I actually forgot. Oh yeah, the steel wheel intrigue. Uh, my subject today is handles and what makes some handles comfortable or not. Now, one thing about Spyderco is that Spyderco, I think, along with Hendra, has the most consistently comfortable handles. Now, the thing about the Dragonfly, this is a very small knife. It's barely 5 inches overall length, but and I have a slightly above average hands, but it's a very comfortable knife to hold. I mean, I can just about get a full four-finger grip here, and that's because of a couple things. First of all, Spyderco tends to have a finger choil, which is very useful for gripping a pocket knife. And then also the indexing up here, the jimping and the indexing up here, makes for a very comfortable knife to hold, and one that actually is very useful for a precise grip. Now, this knife here, which I happen to like, the ZT 0900, is kind of the opposite. I mean, it's a stubby, it's a short knife, and I think ZT had a good idea when they made it, because it's the only ZT I know of that has ever been under 3 inches, and I really hate it was discontinued. But in terms of ergonomics, the handle was not that well executed. It's a very short handle. Basically, I can get three fingers on it. The other finger is empty over there. Now, the thumb ramp is good. And like I say, overall, it's such a nice flipper. It's discontinued. I've always kept it, even though the handle is not optimal. But I really think this knife could have benefited from about another quarter-inch of handle. I mean, that's something that just makes a knife much more practical. Now, something that's really interesting here, talking about handles, is to compare the zero tolerance 0609 and this Microtech LUDT. Now, the Microtech LUDT is actually a little bit longer than the 0609, but you know, the area around the pivot is very large, and as a result, I have a harder time getting all my fingers on it. And for a long time, this kept me from getting an LUDT. Now, I finally did take the plunge, and I have to admit I was able to get used to it. It's fairly comfortable. But I've always felt, once again, it would have benefited from a slightly longer handle, although compared to the Zero Tolerance 0900, it's a more comfortable knife. Now, in contrast to that, we have the ZT 0609 here, which is actually shorter than the LUDT, but it's a much more comfortable handle. Basically, you don't have the big hump around the pivot here, and I can get all my fingers on it, and it's just very comfortable. I think this is going to be a good user. Now, probably the most comfortable handle I know of is here, and that's Hendra XM18. Now, I tell you, I'm tempted to get XM24, which is an even bigger handle, and but I don't know. That's a lot of money. I might not be able to afford that. But this, I think, is an extremely comfortable knife. I mean, simply because it's a very large handle, and it really kind of reminds me of the old Benchmade AFCK, in that it's a long handle, a lot to hold on to, and if you have a larger hand, it's just very, very comfortable. And then finally, at the budget level, we have the steel wheel intrigue, which in its own way, although it's a very thin knife, gives a lot of handle too. And so, even though it's only about the 10th of the price of the XM18, I think it's comparable in terms of handle comfort. Now, the other thing I just want to mention in passing is that, we look at our traditional knives, like this Victorinox electrician here. And, the interesting thing about it is that these are much smaller, but I think, when we use these, we just don't expect the same kind of contours that we have in modern knives. And so, therefore, even though the handle isn't quite as nice, they still do the job quite well. But anyway, this is just an overview of handles and how I see them. I hope it might have been some use to you all. Take care.